I've often wondered why people don't think of the future more, why they prefer to remain in the past. What keeps them in the past or the present? Why can't they go to the future? And I see this in very, very educated people. The more educated they are, the more cynical and skeptical they are about new things. Now, I often tell people, you know what? You want to grow up to be a grumpy old man and a cranky old woman, then we resist change. You notice what they say, what these old men and women say. Oh, these young guys, during our days. And they keep referring to during our days. But those days are gone. They don't want to listen to the young ones. And this is really called educated incapacity because you know so much. You want to hold on to what you know. Otherwise, you'll have to study again about the future. So this educated incapacity is what really hampers us from seeing the future. There's such a thing as the Cassandra effect. A god from Olympus fell in love with the maiden, a mortal, Cassandra, and the god promised her that she will give her the gift of prophecy. And so she was given the gift of prophecy. But still the woman spurned his love. And so the god said, you know what? You will have the gift of prophecy, but nobody will ever believe you. So it's called the Cassandra effect. People are telling the truth, saying the truth, telling you this is what will happen in the future, but people refuse to see the future. So this Cassandra effect is what prevents us. Scientists in the past were very slow to change because of it. The antidote to educated incapacity or the Cassandra effect is having an untrapped mind or freedom to think as a beginner and to see things in a new way. First technique is looking through alien eyes. Having alien eyes means being able to shift from figure to ground. If you look at the figure here, you either see a base or you see the two faces. So what is at the foreground and what is in the background? So the figure, what's the figure to you and what is the ground? Example of a figure ground in 21st century. Females will be the figure, males will be the ground. Why? Females are outliving men. They have longer lifespans. They're the major breadwinners now for many families. They're more involved in politics and running nations and companies and enterprises. Another example, older persons becoming the figure in advanced economies like Europe or Japan, and the youth becoming the ground. The average life expectancy is going up, birth rates going down. Because of advances in science, then average age will be 150 years old 50 years from now. My own doctors are telling me, Ed, in the year 2045, man will have the capacity to be immortal. You can change your organs, clone you, replace whatever sick. As long as you don't die by accident or by murder, you continue living. The figure will be people who are physically challenged, and the ground will be able people. So it's a very fast increase in obesity, incidence, and diabetes. Asthma, allergy-infected persons on the rise. More sedentary, comfortable lifestyle makes people more vulnerable to a host of ailments and diseases. Arthritis and all sorts of aches and pains. The perfectly fit will be a small segment of the market. Seeing from alien eyes or children's eyes means seeing alternative realities. Challenge and reverse your existing assumptions. Subscribe to magazines that infuriate or do not interest you, and try to read them from the eyes of their usual beholders. Watch all sorts of movies and plays. Listen to all sorts of music and pretend that you like them. Link your insights from the strange world that you examine and form new realities. Second technique, look at the trends and counter trends around you. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. In human activities, every trend creates its opposite or counter trend. For example, there are people who don't want to take responsibility. They're dependent, they rely on social welfare, they're vagabonds, they rely on social security, universal health care. But then there is also a counter trend of people who want to be self-reliant, autonomous, entrepreneurial, they're workaholic. They want to manage their own health and finances. Another example, there is this adulation for heroes, for idols. At the same time, people love destroying these idols. Just look at the social media. There are no sacred cows. Great advances in health due to science and affluence. And yet, there's a higher incidence of epidemics, vices, disabilities. mental imbalances, depressed lifestyles, unhealthy practices. There are more and more techies, technologically savvy people with a penchant for gadgets. And yet there are people looking for isolation, for simplicity. They are non-materialistic. There are people who want to minimize the risk, safety belts, speed limits, quantitative techniques to assess risk, hedging, insurances, vitamins, make your immune system strong. And yet there are people who will drive cars with more speed, more power. There are more daring drivers, more risk-taking behavior, more aggressive sports and activities. There's a decline of community, decrease in the concept of monogamous marriages. There's the rise of new consumer durables, virtual communities, new tribalism, alternative communities, associations, clubs, networks, and the like. Third technique, you substitute the spiral for the pendulum. Cycles do exist, but they never reverse themselves along the same path, and they never arrive at the same place. So don't look at it like a pendulum, it swings left and right. It actually spirals up. Examples. The social fabric has spiraled into a new form. More single parenthood, families are being redefined. More adoption, more homes for the aged and disabled. More interracial, intercreed relationships. Multi-directional religions. More environmental concerns. The concept of stakeholdership has expanded. Interlocking and multi-level ownership structure are more prevalent. All sorts of hybrid arrangements are being entered into. Look at the markets. Economists expect markets to follow old behavior based on past events and variables. That's why economists are almost always wrong. They've been proven wrong by new interventions and variables that derail the repetition of old behavior. So why is this? When economists make predictions, they say ceteris paribus, or all things being equal, or the same, but they never remain the same. Fourth technique, the extremes inform the middle. In other words, fashion might go one extreme, and then it goes to another extreme. There's the waif look, for example, scrubbed faces, ample socks, flat shoes, childlike innocent posturing, and then there's the punk look, nihilistic, body piercing, spiked hair, torn garments. There are endless raging debates, pro-life versus pro-choice, genetic reengineering versus ban on all forms of human cloning, stem cell, DNA alteration, etc. There are now growing extremes on gender roles. Men are defined by their brawn, their ability to use physical power for economic and social advantage. Women do not exhibit raw physical power if they want to be liked and accepted. Men without great strength and assertiveness are not great men. So that's one way of looking at it. But look at the other, the counter trend. The physically weak nerd can be macho in a society where brain power counts more than brawn in economic success. Strong athletic women are participating in bootcamp fitness classes and pumping iron in gyms. Men are the breadwinners. Women stay home and take care of the family. That's the old model. But now women are becoming the major or only breadwinners in their household. House husbands are on the rise. The change brought about by the crisis has definitely impacted on our lives. Some of us might have to move on in terms of our jobs. Some of us might be thinking, what do I do with the rest of my life? But if you keep anchoring yourself on the past, on what you have been, you will get stuck. Rather than get anchored in the past of what you have been doing, or who you were, and what you were, just begin to look forward and ask the question, what can I be? What are my possibilities? In how many ways can I think about myself? How do I reinvent myself? No, you have a lot of talents, skills, accumulated knowledge. Please do not have educated incapacity. Look around, there are many new things you can explore. Knowledge is abundant. A push of a button and you can get knowledge. You can download knowledge. You can listen to webinars, you can learn cooking, gardening, all sorts of things are abounding. It's about time we begin asking ourselves, what future do we create for ourselves? How do we make ourselves obsolete every day? And try to be the best persons we can ever become.